Hey everybody, what we're going to be making today is a Chipotle steak quesadilla. Now what I've done is I've made another batch of that marinade that we used on the Chipotle chicken BLT, and I added 2 ingredients. I added lemon juice and a little bit of agave nectar. And then I put it on the steak and let it marinate for 8 hours. After that, I just grilled it up and made a quesadilla out of it. Here, let me show you how I did it. Okay guys, so remember when we made our Chipotle chicken BLT and we made this marinade of Chipotle peppers, a little olive oil, coriander, cumin, garlic, and onions? And then we took that marinade and we put it over chicken and we let it marinate for about 4 hours and we grilled it for the chicken BLT, right? Well, what I've done is I've taken that same marinade with a couple of additions of some lemon juice and a little bit of agave nectar. Now I chose to use some thin cuts of skirt steak, but you can feel free to use any type of steak you like because we're going to be making Chipotle steak quesadillas. Now as far as the ratios of marinade to meat, I used about a 1/4 cup to every pound of meat, but you could certainly use about a 1/3 cup to every pound of meat. Now what we want to do is go ahead and season the meat with kosher salt and Grand Diamond seasoning on both sides. The reason I held back on the seasoning was because I knew I was going to marinate this meat for 8 hours, and what salt tends to do is draw moisture out of meat. So that's why I held back on the seasoning. So of course when it comes out of the marinade, you want to season it really well. Now I'm just going to grill it on both sides for about 4 to 5 minutes over about medium-high heat. Remember guys, when you're grilling, don't poke, prod, and press the meat. You're just going to spread the juices everywhere and then your meat is going to be all dried out. Just let it hang out and cook and then remove it and let it rest. Now what we're going to do while the steak is resting is turn our attention to our peppers and our onions. And I've just sliced these up prior to starting the steak. And I'm going to put some olive oil, some granulated garlic, and some Grand Diamond all-purpose seasoning, which can be found at gdseasoning.com along with this recipe. Now the reason why I'm using granulated garlic instead of fresh is because I'm going to put these peppers and onions directly on the grill and I don't want the garlic to burn and get bitter before they're done cooking. So I opted to go ahead with the granulated garlic. If you use fresh garlic, you're going to have to add it about midway the cooking process so it doesn't burn on you. Now I cook my veggies for about 8 to 10 minutes, but you can totally cook them longer or to the desired tenderness. Next, I took my grill and turned it over to its griddle side and I put my tortilla on there so it can get nice and warm. It'll be easier to work with. Then I took about a tablespoon of olive oil and just brushed it around the griddle to prevent the quesadilla from sticking, and it will help with the browning process. Okay, ready to build our quesadillas. So with the warm tortilla, you're going to start with your favorite cheese, and I have some mozzarella, some sharp cheddar, and some pepper jack. So just put a nice layer on the bottom to start with. And then you're going to follow up with your steak, and then your veggies, and then some more cheese. If you notice, I'm trying to place everything strategically. That's because when the cheese melts, I want to give it a border around the edge of the tortilla so that it's still within the tortilla and it doesn't ooze out. So leave about a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch around the tortilla border so that the cheese will have room to melt. Okay, so for those of you who like to press things, you actually get to press the quesadilla slightly into place. And I'm placing it on the griddle over medium heat. I don't want to blast the quesadilla because what will happen is it's going to brown on the outside before the cheese gets a chance to melt. So do it very gently over medium heat. It may take somewhere between 4 to 8 minutes, but you can check it. Just kind of peel it open and see how your cheese is melting. Don't worry if you don't have a grill/griddle, it's just fine. Go ahead and use your favorite non-stick or favorite regular stainless steel skillet. Now that the quesadilla is done, all you have to do is go ahead and cut it into some wedges, and then you can see real quick why my nieces and nephews love this dish. Look at the vegetables and the steak ooze out. It's nice and stretchy. They love this. And just as a side note guys, if you omit the cheese to the recipe and use a smaller flour tortilla, you have an easy fajita recipe on your hands, and that'll work out just as well. Now I'm just going to top the quesadilla with some guacamole and some fresh salsa made with nopales. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate it when you hang out with me. Remember, these recipes and more can be found at gdseasoning.com, and I'll see you next time. And I had touched that pan before I put it out there thinking it was cool. So I went back out to get it, brought it back in. I got in my kitchen about 5 feet into my kitchen and I heard a thud. Boom.